I never thought I'd actually go through with it. For weeks, the idea had been sitting in the back of my mind like a whisper I couldn't ignore. Live as a girl for 24 hours. That's all. Just one day. I told myself it was a silly challenge, something I'd laugh about later. But when the morning finally came and I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the person I was about to leave behind, it felt heavier than any joke could ever be. The plan was simple in theory. My best friend Chloe had agreed to help me, and she was relentless when it came to detail. She'd been pestering me for months, ever since she caught me joking about how I'd probably pass better as a girl than most of the guys we knew. I hadn't expected her to take me seriously, but Chloe had a way of turning passing comments into full-blown projects. She showed up at my place early in the morning, arms full of makeup bags, wigs, and clothes I'd never even imagined wearing. "Today you're mine," she said, grinning wickedly. No backing out. The nervous laugh that escaped me wasn't convincing. My stomach twisted with anxiety. Could I really pull this off? Could I actually spend an entire day walking around, not as myself, but as someone completely different? Chloe wasted no time. She sat me down in front of my mirror and started with the makeup. At first, I squirmed under the unfamiliar sensation of brushes and sponges against my skin, the faint chemical scent of foundation filling the air. She scolded me every time I moved, telling me to sit still or else. But slowly, something strange began to happen. The more layers she applied, the more my reflections seemed to slip away. My sharp jaw softened, my cheekbones became more defined, and my eyes, my boring, average eyes, suddenly looked larger, brighter, almost alive in a way I'd never seen before. "Not bad," Chloe murmured, tilting my chin to inspect her work. "You've got good bone structure. Makes this way too easy." I wanted to laugh, but the words caught in my throat. The person in the mirror didn't feel like me anymore. She looked curious, unfamiliar, maybe even a little daring. The wig came next. Chloe picked a long, chestnut brown style with soft waves that framed my face. When she adjusted it over my head and secured it, I almost didn't recognize myself. My hand hovered near my reflection, like touching the glass might confirm whether the stranger staring back was real. Clothes were the final step. She had brought a simple outfit, a pale pink blouse tucked into a high-waisted skirt with sheer tights and flats. It wasn't anything outrageous, but slipping into it felt like stepping into another dimension. The fabric clung differently, the skirt brushing against my legs with every movement. I caught myself smoothing it down nervously, the gesture oddly natural. "Stand up," Chloe commanded. "Let me see." I obeyed, wobbling slightly in the unfamiliar shoes. She circled me like a fashion critic, arms crossed, nodding in approval. "You'll pass," she declared. "Easily. Maybe too easily." The words sent a rush of adrenaline through me. Pass. As a girl, the idea felt impossible, and yet here I was, staring at proof. My heart pounded with both excitement and dread. Then Chloe dropped the bomb. "We're not just staying here, by the way. We're going out." I froze. "Out? As in outside?" She rolled her eyes. "What's the point of this if you don't test it in the real world? Don't worry, I'll be with you the whole time. Trust me, it'll be fine." But nothing about this felt fine. The thought of walking outside like this, of people seeing me, judging me, maybe even laughing at me, it made my chest tighten. Still, I couldn't back out now. I'd already come this far, and a strange part of me wanted to know just how far I could go. So I nodded, forcing a shaky smile. "Okay, let's do it." Chloe grinned, like she'd been waiting for that moment all along. She grabbed her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and opened the door. My stomach flipped as I followed her out, every step echoing with the weight of what I was about to do. 24 hours. Just one day. But something deep down told me that by the time those hours were up, nothing would ever feel the same again. The first few steps outside felt like walking onto a stage, only I hadn't rehearsed my lines. Every movement felt exaggerated, like the world was watching, waiting for me to slip up. The morning air brushed against my skin differently, lighter somehow, and I became hyper-aware of the way my skirt shifted with every stride. "Relax," Chloe whispered beside me, linking her arm through mine as if to anchor me. "You look amazing. No one's going to suspect a thing." Her confidence was comforting, but it didn't quiet the voice in my head screaming that everyone would see right through me. Each person we passed seemed like a potential threat, their eyes darting toward me for just a moment before moving on. Every glance felt like a spotlight. We stopped at a small cafe near the corner of the street. It was Chloe's idea, of course. She said ordering something simple would be the perfect test run. My pulse quickened as we stepped inside, the warm hum of chatter filling the air. The smell of coffee was comforting, but it wasn't enough to calm the storm inside me. We joined the line. I fiddled with the hem of my blouse, trying to appear casual. Chloe leaned in, whispering, "Remember, confidence is key. Don't overthink. Just be her." Be her. The phrase stuck. Who exactly was her? When it was my turn to order, I hesitated, panic flashing across my face. The barista looked at me expectantly. My throat tightened, but then, as if on autopilot, I heard my own voice, higher, softer, not quite my usual tone, asking for a caramel latte. The barista smiled. "That'll be $4.50. Nothing in his expression suggested suspicion. No raised eyebrow. No hesitation. Just a normal transaction. I handed over the cash with trembling fingers, and when he called out, "Caramel latte for Emily," the name Chloe had fed him earlier, I froze. Emily. That was me now. Chloe nudged me toward the counter. "Go on, Emily. That's you." Hearing it aloud was surreal. I picked up the cup, my hands shaking so much I was afraid I'd spill it. But nobody stared. Nobody laughed. To the outside world, I wasn't some guy in disguise. I was just another girl picking up her morning coffee. We sat down at a corner table, and Chloe grinned across at me. "See? Easy. You're a natural." I exhaled slowly, the adrenaline finally loosening its grip. For the first time, a flicker of pride sparked inside me. I'd done it. I'd actually passed. But that pride was quickly tangled with something else, an unfamiliar heaviness that I couldn't quite name. It wasn't just about fooling people. Sitting there, with my reflection faintly mirrored in the cafe's window, I felt a strange pull toward the version of myself staring back. She didn't look like an act. She looked possible. "Careful," Chloe teased, breaking my trance. "If you keep staring at yourself like that, people will think you're obsessed." I laughed awkwardly, but deep down, I wasn't sure she was wrong. After the cafe, Chloe suggested we do something bolder: shopping. The idea made my stomach knot again. It was one thing to order a coffee, another entirely to walk into a clothing store and browse racks of dresses, as if I belonged there. Still, I followed her into a boutique a few blocks away. The moment I stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted, soft lighting, floral scents, and racks upon racks of delicate fabrics. It was a world I'd only ever glanced at from the outside, and now I was standing in the middle of it, trying not to crumble. A sales associate greeted us with a friendly smile. "Can I help you find anything today?" she asked. Chloe jumped in before I could panic. "We're just looking, thanks." The associate nodded and walked away, but the encounter left me rattled. I felt Chloe tug a hanger from the rack, holding up a sundress against me with a mischievous smirk. "This would look so cute on you." I swatted her arm, whispering urgently, "Chloe, are you serious? I can't try that on." "Why not? That's the whole point, isn't it?" She raised an eyebrow. "Trust me, no one's going to question you." Her words were daring, tempting, like she was testing how far I'd go. My heart pounded as she shoved the dress into my hands and steered me toward the fitting rooms. Standing alone in that little cubicle, curtain drawn shut, I held the dress against me. The silky fabric was cool under my fingers. Slowly, almost reverently, I slipped it on. When I turned to face the mirror, I stopped breathing. The reflection staring back wasn't me. Or maybe it was, just not the me I'd always known. The dress hugged my frame, transforming my posture, my presence. I spun slightly, the hem twirling, and for a fleeting moment, I felt beautiful. Then a voice echoed from outside. "How's it look?"
Chloe.
I bit my lip, torn between hiding and revealing. Finally, I pulled the curtain back just enough for her to peek in. Her eyes widened. "Wow," she whispered. "You look incredible." And in that moment, hearing the awe in her voice, I couldn't tell if I was still playing a role or if I'd stumbled onto something far more real. The look on Chloe's face was enough to make my knees weak. She wasn't teasing me, wasn't exaggerating for effect.
She meant it.
And that sincerity shook me more than anything else. "Spin around," she urged. "I want the full effect." Hesitantly, I turned, the dress swishing softly against my legs. For the first time all day, I wasn't just afraid of being caught. I was afraid of how much I liked this. "You're glowing," Chloe said, almost to herself. "It's like this version of you is just waiting to come out." I scoffed, trying to mask the flush creeping up my cheeks. "It's just a dress. Don't get carried away." But when I turned back toward the mirror, my reflection told a different story. The way the dress shaped me, the way my hair framed my face, the way my body seemed to belong in that space, it didn't look temporary. It looked possible. A knock on the fitting room door startled me. "Everything okay in there?" the sales associate called. "Why, yeah," I stammered, my voice pitching higher instinctively. "Just fine." The disguise held. Relief flooded me. When I finally changed back into the skirt and blouse Chloe had chosen earlier, part of me felt oddly disappointed. I handed the dress back to her reluctantly, and she smirked knowingly. "Don't worry. We're buying it." I gawked.
What?
"Chloe, no. I can't." "Consider it a souvenir," she interrupted. "Proof you pulled this off. Trust me, you'll thank me later." I wanted to argue, but the truth was, a secret part of me wanted that dress too. By the time we left the boutique, shopping bag in hand, I was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, even physically. Keeping my posture in check, remembering to adjust my voice, smoothing my skirt every time the wind caught it, it was like living on high alert. And yet, beneath all the tension, there was an undeniable thrill. Chloe suggested we grab lunch. We found a small diner tucked away on a side street, quieter than the cafe. I slid into the booth opposite her, grateful for the temporary shelter from the outside world. As we waited for our food, Chloe leaned forward, eyes glinting mischievously. "So, how does it feel?" I hesitated. "Strange."
Scary.
"But not bad. Kind of freeing, actually."
She grinned.
"I knew it. You're a natural at this. It's like you were meant to be doing it." Her words lingered. Meant to be. I wanted to dismiss them, laugh them off, but they clung to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. When our meals arrived, I noticed something strange. The waiter addressed Chloe as Miss without hesitation, then turned to me and did the same. "Anything else for you, Miss?" Mississippi. The word hit me harder than expected. I felt my cheeks burn as I muttered a polite no. "Thank you." Once he left, Chloe kicked me under the table.
"See?
Even strangers see it." I tried to focus on my food, but my appetite was gone. The word echoed in my head over and over, a drumbeat I couldn't silence.
Miss.
After lunch, we wandered through the park. The air was crisp, the sound of children laughing and dogs barking filling the background. I thought I'd be more self-conscious, but strangely, the longer we walked, the less I noticed the stares, or maybe there weren't any at all. People just accepted me. We sat on a bench, and for a while, we were quiet. Then Chloe spoke softly. "You know, I don't think you realize how well you're doing. Most people would crack under this kind of pressure. But you're thriving." I looked at her, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to deny it, to insist this was just a silly experiment. But another part, the part that had twirled in that sundress, the part that blushed when the waiter called me Miss, knew better. Maybe I was thriving. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just a performance. The thought both thrilled and terrified me. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Chloe checked her phone. "It's almost evening. We should head back to your place. But don't think the day's over. We've got plans for tonight." I groaned, half joking. You're relentless. She winked. You'll thank me later. Tonight is when the real test begins. Her words sent a shiver through me. If everything until now had just been the warm-up, what on earth was coming next? We caught the bus back to my apartment, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the day was moving faster than I could process. Every stop, every step, every new introduction to this role seemed to push me deeper into it, like I was being swept along by a current too strong to fight. On the ride home, I sat by the window, tugging nervously at the edge of my skirt. I kept expecting someone to stare too long or whisper, but if anyone noticed, they didn't show it. Instead, the older woman seated across from us smiled warmly, the kind of polite acknowledgement you'd give any other girl on the bus. That smile burned into me like sunlight. She didn't see a disguise.
She just saw me.
When we finally got back to my place, Chloe dropped her bag on the couch and turned to me with a spark of mischief in her eyes. All right, time to get ready. Ready for what? I asked cautiously, kicking off my shoes.
She grinned.
We're going out tonight. The words made my stomach flip. Going out? Where? Just trust me. You'll see. I tried to argue, but Chloe was already digging through the bags of clothes she'd brought. She pulled out something far flashier than what I'd worn earlier, a sleek black dress that shimmered faintly under the light. The kind of dress that made statements without saying a word. Absolutely not, I blurted. Absolutely yes, she countered. You wanted the full 24-hour experience, didn't you? This is it. Reluctantly, I let her guide me through the transformation again. Fresh makeup, darker this time, with bold eyeliner and lipstick that felt dangerous just sitting on my lips. She restyled the wig, brushing it smooth so it cascaded down my shoulders in perfect waves. Then came the dress. Sliding into it felt like stepping into a new skin. The fabric hugged my frame in ways that made me self-conscious, but when I finally looked in the mirror, the breath caught in my throat. Gone was the shy, awkward version of me fumbling through the day. In her place stood someone daring, confident, maybe even glamorous. It didn't look like a costume anymore. It looked like a promise. Chloe clapped her hands. You're going to turn heads tonight. Her confidence was infectious, but I couldn't shake the nerves tightening in my chest. Where are we even going? You'll see, she repeated with a maddening smirk. When we finally stepped outside, the cool night air wrapped around me, making me shiver. The heels Chloe had insisted on were awkward at first, but soon I found a rhythm. Every click of them against the pavement sent a strange rush through me, like each step was rewriting who I was. We arrived at a lounge downtown. It wasn't a wild nightclub, but it buzzed with energy, soft music, clinking glasses, groups of friends laughing over dimly lit tables. The second we walked in, my anxiety skyrocketed. This wasn't like ordering coffee or shopping. This was immersion, interaction, exposure. Chloe leaned in close. Remember, you're Emily. Just breathe. You've got this. I nodded, though my palms were slick with sweat. We found a table, and almost immediately a waiter appeared, addressing us as ladies. I ordered a soda, forcing myself to maintain the softer voice I'd been practicing. To my shock, it worked seamlessly. But the real test came when Chloe excused herself to the restroom, leaving me alone. That's when a group of people my age passed by our table, 2 girls and a guy. One of the girls glanced at me and smiled. Cute dress, she said casually before continuing on. I froze. My brain replayed the words over and over.
Cute dress.
She hadn't doubted me, hadn't mocked me, she'd complimented me. By the time Chloe returned, my head was spinning. I told her what had happened, and she beamed.
See?
You're not just passing, you're blending in. You belong here. Belong. The word echoed louder than Miss had earlier. Belonging was something I hadn't even realized I'd been craving until that moment. And now, here I was slipping into it like the dress I wore. As the night went on, I loosened up. We chatted, laughed, and even joined a small group in conversation. Not once did anyone give me a second look. They treated me exactly the way they treated Chloe, like I was just another girl out for the night. For the first time all day, I wasn't acting. I wasn't pretending. I was simply existing. And it felt terrifyingly right. But as midnight crept closer, a new question stirred in my chest, one I wasn't sure I was ready to face. If I could slip so easily into this life for a night, what would it mean when the 24 hours were up? By the time Chloe and I left the lounge, my head was spinning, not from the soda, but from everything I'd just experienced. Compliments, casual conversations, laughter that didn't feel forced. For a few short hours, I hadn't been pretending. I hadn't been the awkward imposter waiting to be caught. I had been Emily. Walking back through the quiet streets, the night air cool against my skin, I found myself dreading the moment it would all end. Chloe noticed the silence and nudged me playfully. "You did amazing," she said. "Better than I ever expected." "Don't say that," I muttered, hugging my arms around myself. "Why not? It's true." I hesitated, the words fighting their way out. Because if I admit that, then what does it say about me? Chloe stopped in her tracks, turning to face me. Her eyes softened. "It says you're braver than you give yourself credit for. It says you stepped into something new and owned it. That's not something to be ashamed of." Her reassurance warmed me, but deep down, it only highlighted the storm brewing inside. This wasn't supposed to feel good. It wasn't supposed to matter. And yet, it did. Back at my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, kicking off the heels with a sigh of relief. My feet throbbed, but strangely, I didn't want to take off the dress. I didn't want to wash away the makeup or pull off the wig. The idea of undoing it all felt like erasing someone I wasn't ready to say goodbye to. Chloe plopped down beside me, grinning. "So, what's the verdict? Living as a girl for a day. What's the score?" I stared at the floor, struggling to put it into words. It feels like I've been playing a role all my life. And tonight I wasn't. Does that make sense? She tilted her head. It makes perfect sense. The honesty in her eyes was almost too much. I looked away, fidgeting with the hem of my dress. But it's not real. Tomorrow, it'll all be gone. I'll be back to me. And maybe that's okay, she said gently. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that you've got choices you didn't think you had. Her words settled over me like a blanket, heavy but comforting. Choices. That was the part I'd never considered. We stayed up talking until the early hours, laughing, sharing stories, occasionally drifting into silence that said more than words could. When I finally crawled into bed, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror one last time. Makeup smudged, hair slightly tangled, but still her. Emily. I fell asleep not as the person I'd always been, but as the person I'd never let myself imagine I could be. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my blinds, pulling me awake. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The soft weight of the wig against my shoulder, the faint trace of eyeliner under my eyes, it all came rushing back. And so did the dread. Because today, the 24 hours were almost up. Chloe was already awake, scrolling through her phone on the couch. When she saw me emerge, she smirked. "Morning, Emily." Hearing the name first thing in the morning startled me, but not in a bad way. I sat down beside her, rubbing my temples. "So, what now?" She locked her phone and looked at me with that same mischievous spark she'd had yesterday. "Now? We finish what we started. We've got a few hours left. Let's make them count." I wanted to argue, to tell her I was exhausted, emotionally drained. But deep down, I knew she was right. If I was going to do this, I had to see it through to the end. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't ready to let go yet. I thought Chloe might take it easy on me that morning, maybe suggest a quiet day at home to wind things down. I was wrong. The moment I sat down with her, she sprang up, practically buzzing with energy. "We're doing brunch," she declared, rifling through the shopping bag with the dress from yesterday. But not just any brunch. A proper one. Daylight, full crowd, no hiding in shadows. The very thought made my stomach twist. Chloe, last night was already pushing it. People barely noticed me in the lounge because it was dark. In the middle of the day? That's different. She arched an eyebrow. "Are you really going to quit now?" With just a few hours left. Her challenge struck a nerve. I hated that she was right. I hated that a part of me wanted to prove her wrong by proving her right. So, reluctantly, I let her pull me back into the chair and work her magic again. This time, the makeup was lighter, daytime natural, she called it. A soft gloss instead of bold lipstick, a hint of blush, and eyes that sparkled without looking too deliberate. The effect was startling. Less like a costume, more like me. Or, at least, a version of me I could almost believe in. The outfit was simple. Jeans that hugged just right, a casual blouse, and flats. Nothing dramatic, nothing showy. Just everyday wear. And that was what scared me most. There was no hiding behind glamour now. If I was going to pass, it would have to be as someone ordinary. When we finally left the apartment, my nerves were buzzing like static. But as we walked, something strange happened. The morning bustle of the city surrounded us. Families, couples, friends, all too caught up in their own lives to care about mine. And slowly, step by step, my fear began to ease. The restaurant Chloe had picked was a trendy brunch spot with outdoor seating. It was packed, the kind of place where people lined up for avocado toast and oat milk lattes. My pulse spiked the moment we approached the host's stand, but Chloe spoke confidently for the both of us. "Table for two, please." The host glanced at us and smiled. "Right this way, ladies." Ladies. There it was again, that word that struck me deeper than I ever expected. We settled into a small table near the window, menus in hand. My eyes skimmed the options, but my focus kept drifting to the people around us. Groups of girls laughing, their hair catching the sunlight. Couples leaning close over shared plates. And here I was sitting among them, not as an outsider, but as one of them. I finally ordered a fruit parfait, my voice soft and steady, slipping easily into the higher tone I'd practiced. The server didn't blink, didn't hesitate. She just jotted it down and moved on. Chloe leaned across the table, smirking. "You're getting good at this." Like, scary good. I tried to play it off, but her words sent a warm rush through me. "It's just one day," I reminded her and myself. "When the 24 hours are up, it's over." But Chloe shook her head. "You don't sound so sure anymore." I didn't answer, because deep down, I wasn't. When the food arrived, I caught sight of myself in the reflection of the window. Sunlight framed my face, and for a fleeting moment, I didn't see a disguise. I saw someone who belonged in that chair, laughing with a friend, enjoying brunch on a Sunday morning. And that scared me more than anything else. After we finished, Chloe suggested a walk through the nearby park. I expected to feel the usual anxiety, the stares, the second-guessing, but instead, something else took over. A lightness. A rhythm. As if my body had finally relaxed into itself, no longer fighting to remember how to move or speak. We passed a group of teenagers taking photos by the fountain, and one of the girls accidentally bumped into me. She apologized quickly, then complimented my blouse before hurrying off. That was the moment it hit me.
She hadn't doubted me.
She hadn't paused. She'd just seen me as another girl her age. Chloe noticed the stunned look on my face and grinned. "You get it now, don't you?" I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Get what? That this isn't just a game. It's you, whether you admit it or not. Her words echoed in my head long after we left the park. And with every step closer to the end of the 24 hours, the more I realized that going back to who I'd been before might not be as simple as I thought. The hours slipped by faster than I could hold on to them. Every minute felt sharper, heavier, as though the clock ticking toward the end of this challenge was also counting down to the end of something far greater. Back at my apartment, Chloe stretched out on the couch with a satisfied sigh. "Well, that was brunch. Nailed it. What's next on your list, Emily?" The way she said the name so casually made my chest tighten. It didn't sound like a nickname anymore. It sounded like a truth she'd accepted before I had. I sank into the armchair across from her, tugging at my blouse nervously. "I don't know if I can keep pretending. It's exhausting." Her eyes softened. "Is it pretending? Or is it something else?" I didn't answer.
Couldn't answer.
Because deep down, I knew what she was hinting at, and it scared me. Chloe shifted gears, standing up and pulling the shopping bag closer.
"All right.
One last test." I groaned. Do you ever stop? Nope, she said cheerfully, tossing a bundle of fabric into my lap. I unfolded it and froze. It was the sundress from yesterday, the one I'd spun in like a child, the one that had made me feel beautiful for the first time. Just touching it again brought back that swirl of emotions: fear, wonder, joy. Put it on, Chloe said simply. I stared at her.
Now? Why?
Because I want you to see what you look like in it in the daylight. No fitting rooms, no dim lights, no safety nets. Just you. My pulse hammered, but I obeyed. Slipping into the dress felt like surrendering, like handing myself over to something I no longer had the strength to resist. When I stepped out of my room, Chloe's smile widened. There she is, she whispered. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, the sunlight streaming through the window and catching the hem of the dress. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, and once again, I stopped breathing. It wasn't a disguise anymore. It wasn't a costume. It was me. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to deny it. Chloe approached, her voice low but firm. You see it now, don't you? I nodded slowly, my throat tight. I don't want it to end. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Then maybe it doesn't have to. Her words hung in the air like a promise I didn't dare reach for. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. We lounged around listening to music, scrolling through our phones, occasionally bursting into laughter over something silly. But every time I caught my reflection, every time the sundress brushed against my legs, I felt the weight of the ticking clock. By evening, the reality of it all pressed down harder than ever. The 24 hours were nearly up. Soon, I'd have to wash off the makeup, hang up the dress, and step back into the life I'd left behind yesterday morning. And the thought of doing that was unbearable. I sat by the window as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Chloe joined me quietly. No teasing this time, no smirk, just silence. Finally, I whispered, "What happens tomorrow?" She looked at me, her gaze steady. That's not my question to answer. It's yours.
I didn't respond.
I couldn't, because I knew she was right. The question of tomorrow wasn't about makeup or clothes or voices. It was about me, about who I was, about who I wanted to be. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I could go back to the old answer. The silence between Chloe and me stretched long into the evening, filled only by the hum of the city outside. I kept staring at the fading light, afraid that once darkness fell, the spell of the last 24 hours would break. Finally, Chloe stood, brushing her hands against her jeans. Come on. One last outing. We're not wasting these final hours hiding inside. I turned, startled. Another one? Chloe, I don't think I can. You can, she interrupted firmly. And you will. You've come this far. Don't let it fizzle out at the finish line. Her determination won out over my fear. With a heavy sigh, I agreed.
Fine.
Where are we going? You'll see, she said with that maddening grin again. This time, she didn't go for glamour. She handed me a cozy cardigan to wear over the sundress, pairing it with sneakers instead of flats. Comfortable, casual, approachable, the kind of outfit you'd wear for a stroll rather than a performance. We headed toward the Riverwalk, where the glow of street lamps shimmered against the water. Families walked dogs, couples strolled hand in hand, joggers passed by with earbuds in. Ordinary life, unfolding around us. And for the first time all day, I didn't feel like an imposter in the middle of it. We found a bench overlooking the water, and Chloe leaned back, stretching. Not bad, huh? Fresh air, quiet company, and you looking like you belong more than ever. I hugged the cardigan tighter around me. It's strange. A part of me feels normal, like this is just who I am. But another part of me keeps screaming that it's not real, that it's going to end. Chloe tilted her head. What if both parts are telling the truth? I frowned. How can that be? Because the truth is, you did live as a girl for 24 hours. That's real. And maybe it ends tonight. Or maybe it doesn't. But either way, you can't deny how it made you feel. Her words sank deep, stirring emotions I couldn't untangle. The laughter of a passing group of teenagers drifted by, carefree and easy. I wondered what it would be like to live that way, not for a day, not for a challenge, but for real. I must have fallen quiet for too long, because Chloe nudged me.
Hey.
Don't get lost in your head. Look at you. You've come further than you ever thought you could. I smiled faintly, my eyes stinging. I don't know what I expected when we started this, but it wasn't this. What was it then? She asked softly. I shook my head. I thought it would be funny. Embarrassing, maybe. Just a story to tell later. But now it feels like I've opened a door I didn't even know existed. And I don't know if I can close it again. Chloe didn't say anything. She just reached out, taking my hand in hers. It was a simple gesture, grounding and reassuring. We sat like that, hands linked, watching the river shimmer under the streetlights. And as the minutes slipped by, the realization grew heavier in my chest. I didn't want this to be just 24 hours. I wanted more. But wanting more meant confronting questions I wasn't ready to answer. When we finally walked back home, the night felt quieter, more fragile. Like every second was precious, slipping away too quickly. By the time we reached my apartment door, my chest ached with the weight of goodbye, not just to Chloe, not just to the day, but to Emily.
Inside, Chloe turned to me. Well,
that's it. The challenge is almost over. You've got 1 hour left. What do you want to do with it? I didn't know. Sit by the window and memorize the way the sundress felt against my skin? Stare into the mirror one last time and try to etch Emily's face into my memory? Or say the words I'd been too afraid to admit all day? My throat tightened as I whispered, I don't want it to end. And Chloe, without missing a beat, whispered back, then maybe it doesn't have to. The final hour felt like a countdown to something irreversible. I paced my apartment, sundress brushing my knees, the cardigan draped loosely over my shoulders. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had before, like it wanted to remind me that the challenge would soon be done, whether I was ready or not. Chloe watched me, arms folded, eyes steady. You're spiraling, she said gently. I stopped, pressing my palms against the wall. Of course I'm spiraling. This was supposed to be 24 hours. Just 24. But now, my voice cracked. Now I don't know who I am anymore. She crossed the room and placed a hand on my shoulder. You're you. That hasn't changed. I shook my head. No, it has. Everything's changed. I can't unsee it. I can't unknow how it felt. I can't go back to the person who started this challenge yesterday morning. That person doesn't exist anymore. For a moment, Chloe didn't speak. Then she whispered, So don't go back. Her words hung in the air, daring me to acknowledge what I wanted but was too afraid to claim. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Do you think people would accept it? If I chose this? Chloe's gaze softened. I can't promise you everyone would. But I can promise you this. What I saw in you today wasn't fake. It wasn't forced. It was you at your most alive. And the people who matter will see that too. Her conviction made my chest ache. I wanted to believe her so badly it hurt. The clock ticked closer to midnight. 40 minutes left. 35. Finally, I sat down at my vanity, staring into the mirror. My reflection stared back. Emily, in all her fragile beauty. The girl who wasn't supposed to exist, who had somehow come alive in the span of one day. I touched my cheek, careful not to smudge the makeup. If I wash this off, is she gone? Chloe stepped behind me, meeting my reflection in the mirror.
No.
She's here, she said, pressing a hand over my heart. And nothing can wash that away. Tears blurred my vision, but for once, I didn't try to stop them. They slipped down my cheeks silently, proof of just how much this day had meant. By the time the clock read 11:55, my chest felt like it might burst. I whispered, almost to myself, I'm scared. Chloe squeezed my shoulder. Of what? Of choosing wrong, I admitted. Of letting today slip away, but also of holding on to it and not knowing where it leads. She crouched beside me, her eyes never leaving mine. Then don't think of it as choosing forever. Think of it as choosing tomorrow. When tomorrow comes, you get to decide again. And the day after that. And the day after that. You don't have to have all the answers tonight. Her words settled over me like a blanket, easing some of the chaos in my mind. Maybe she was right. Maybe tomorrow didn't have to mean a permanent decision, just the courage to take another step. As the final minutes ticked away, I stared at my reflection, memorizing every detail. Not because I feared losing her, but because I knew, deep down, she wasn't going anywhere. The clock struck midnight. The 24 hours were up. And yet, I didn't move. I didn't rush to scrub my face or change clothes. I simply sat there, breathing, waiting, wondering. Because I realized something in that moment. The challenge was over, but the story wasn't. Not even close. Midnight came and went, but nothing inside me shifted back. No curtain dropped, no spell broke, no sudden return to the person I'd been the morning before. I was still sitting there in my sundress, makeup smudged just slightly, cardigan draped over my shoulders. Emily hadn't vanished. She was still here. Chloe leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a quiet smile playing on her lips. So, what now? The question was simple, but it held the weight of everything. I looked at my reflection one more time, then at Chloe. I don't know, but I don't think I can go back to pretending today didn't happen. She nodded slowly. Good. That's honest. I stood up, pacing again, though this time with less panic, more electricity. The kind that hums under your skin when you're standing on the edge of something new. What if this was never just a challenge? What if it was a test? For me. Chloe raised an eyebrow. And did you pass? I let out a shaky laugh, brushing at my tears. I think I did. But it's not about passing, is it? It's about finding out that I want more. The admission hung in the air, terrifying but freeing. Chloe stepped forward, placing both hands on my shoulders. Then promise me one thing. Don't bury this. Don't wake up tomorrow and pretend it was just a funny story. Let yourself feel it. Explore it. Even if it scares you. I nodded, throat too tight for words. We spent the next hour just talking. No challenges, no makeup tips, no outings. Just talking about fear, about freedom, about identity, about how hard it is to admit to yourself what you want when it's something you never imagined you could have. At some point, Chloe asked, So, if you had to sum it up, what were the insane results of your little 24-hour experiment? I smiled faintly. That I didn't just live as a girl for a day. I found out I could be one. She squeezed my hand, and for once, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I didn't feel like a fraud or a stranger in my own skin. I just felt me. When she finally left, the apartment felt impossibly quiet. I stood alone by the mirror, the night pressing close around me. The challenge was over. The day was done. But the reflection looking back at me wasn't a stranger anymore. She was someone I knew, someone I couldn't ignore. And as I crawled into bed, dress still draped around me, heart pounding with the weight of everything that had happened, one thought whispered louder than all the rest. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning.